Welcome to SAP Analytics Cloud, Unit 3, Creating Data Models. So, in this session, we are going to see an overview of the SAC modeling. We'll take a sample data set and understand the behavior of the data, and then on what is dimension and what are the types of dimension, how to create a dimension table, and the different types of data model. So, this is the schematic representation of SAC modeling. So data is imported from the source system into the SAP Analytics Cloud model. In the model, we have some important attributes called dimensions. So we'll talk in detail about what is dimension, what are the public dimensions, what is system generated dimensions. So we have different types of dimensions and we create a model using these dimensions. And on top of the model, a story is created, which is a data visualization in the form of charts or tables to represent your data to the users. So let's try to understand the sample data. So let's see the sample data. We have store, the store name of the store, the region, product type, quantity, and the sales per each product. That's what sales by EA. So this is a sample data set of the sales happening in different stores. Okay, the time period is not specified here. Just take it maybe for some time period for this date and time. This is the sales and quantity uh, for some of the products. It is taken as a sample data set. So I have given some stores name and there are the cities, the main cities, and some few products of soap and powder. This is the product type. Okay, and then I have the quantity and the sales. So now we'll see what is the dimension here, what is a measure. So there are two important things before you create a model. We need a dimensions, we need measures. So in the sample set, all these store, region, product, and product type are dimensions. So dimensions have your dimensions have are called master data. Okay, right here. Whereas your measures are just the values. Values. What do you mean by master data? So dimensions are something that holds the important data that represent the values. That is, without all these columns, there is no, you know, there is no meaning for quantity or sales figures, right? So these represents the dimensions, and they are called the master data. And these represents the measures. They are the values. So you can say that these are the data that represents the values. Instead of telling, okay, measures are just the values or the sales figures which we report on. So in the dimensions, what we have is two types: public and private. So public dimensions, you create a dimension and load the data, and that is available to all the models. Private, is only available to a particular model. So that is the different types of dimensions. Uh, what is master data? What is transaction data? Master data is something that doesn't change. Master data doesn't change, or it changes rarely. For example, the product type of Dettol is soap. That does that it is not going to change, right? It's not going to be some other product type. It would be soap for mostly the time, right? So it does not change, or frequently change, or sorry, it changes rarely. It changes, or it takes time to change. For example, the customer's address. The address is not going to change every day. It might change, but the frequency is very less. So such type of data are called master data. And what is transaction data? This is a transaction data. The entire data is called a transaction data because each row will vary. Tomorrow, the same store and the product will have some other values in the sales. So it keeps on changing day by day. The quantity and the sales keep on changing. So that is called the transaction data. Okay. So these are the aspects of your dimensions and measures which represent the data set which you're going to load into your model. Now, in addition to this, let us see what is. We'll see some example of a, yeah, of master data which we are going to load into the dimensions. What we saw was in the supermarket data was the transaction. The data of supermarket is completely transaction. It has the quantity and the sales value. But this is called the master data, which we will load into the dimensions. So this is not going to vary. This is not going to change. You have the store number, you have store, you will have city, state, the address, pin code. So all this is the values of the dimension store. So what is the city of the store, state, and the pin code? This is not going to change frequently. And you need a key for every dimension. Okay, here the key is store number, and that has to be unique. See, if I hide this store number, Big Bazaar is there in every city, every state. How will I know which Big Bazaar is this particular store if that if the other attributes or features are not there? I'm just going to use the store. I need to know which store it is, and for this particular column, I need to have a unique value. That will be the key of this complete dimension table. So I don't say any unique key, right? Because that is everywhere. City is a common, it's a common attribute. So to have a unique attribute, I need something like a store name, which is unique to that particular store. Store number. Store name might be available in different cities, but the store number is unique to that particular store. So this is the key of the dimension. We need to have one unique value for each dimensions. So this data is loaded into a dimension table, and this can be utilized for any of the models. It is the master data. It is not a transaction data, it is a master data for a dimension table. Whereas into the models, when we see the values and the quantities, those are the transaction data. But this is something that doesn't change over time. So this is stored in a dimension table and is loaded or updated once in a while if there are any changes to this master data. What is dimension? What are measures? We'll see uh, what are the different data models, dimension types. So there are different dimension types. account dimension, this typically comes to the financial type accounts. Like you have different accounts for each of the functions in the business. Like if there's a uh, account, there might be account for some infrastructure costs, there may be account for uh, the income coming through offers, some. So there will be, every business will have financial accounts for each and every function. So those accounts are given by the account dimension type. And we will have a dimension as organization when it includes the cost centers, profit centers, or business unit. So when the picture is on a larger scale and we see values across cost centers or profit centers, and at that time the dimension type has to be organization. So apart from accounts and organization, the rest of all the other data can be grouped into generic dimension type. There is also version dimension type, which is used in the planning models, where you will have a version for planning, you will have a version for actuals, and version for forecasts. And you'll have the date dimension type. Now we will tables. We'll see how to access the SEC trial. SAP has already given trials for the currently used applications like Analytic Cloud, S4 HANA, in Cloud, BTP. You all have the trial access of that. So for that, you can just type in SAC trial, and when you see, you can see that experience. You will get that link of the basic trial option. So there you can start your free trial. This free trial is of 30 days. You have to ensure that you click on SAP India. Currently, it might be on United States initially, so you have to click on SAP India and then click on Try Now. This free trial is of 30 days of time, so you can give your Gmail or any other private email ID, and when you click on Next, you will be provisioned a link in your email to access the SAP trial, and then you agree and you'll be able to use the SAC screen. Now we will try to see. Now let us see how to create a dimension table and how to load a dimension table. So for that, you're going to go to the modeler. This is the tab to go to modeler I had here, right? So this is the tab to go to modeler. In modeler, we have options to create model, public dimension tables, and conversions, etc. But now we are going to create a public dimension table. So what is a public dimension table? It's a dimension table that can be utilized by any of the models. It's public to all the models. So now I'm going to create a dimension. So we saw that in a dimension we had three types of dimensions basically. Importantly, we had account dimension, we had uh, organizational dimension, and then a generic dimension. So we are going to create a generic dimension. So we're not going to create any cost centers or finance related items or planning. So we'll go with the generic dimension. So I'm just giving a name to the, okay, okay, the description is stores. So now I'm creating a dimension table. So as we saw, that Excel sheet had few columns, right? Those are called properties. So this is the workspace for the dimension table. So this space is a workspace here, and then the proper details of the dimension table are here. So we need to set some few properties for the dimension table. So now this is a stores are is a public dimension. It's a generic dimension. and we have the name in the description, and these are few properties that you can have with respect to access and all. Currently we don't have properties here, so we are going to create properties. Like we had city, right? So the description will be city. We will create another property for state. Created that, and we'll create another property for pin code, and I've created that. Now we have created the properties. Now we are going to create a hierarchy. Hierarchy is a structure that is used for organizing your data. So now in this example, city, your member ID or your stores will come under a particular city, and the city will come under a state. So this is a type of a hierarchy. So we're going to create hierarchy. In hierarchy, there are two types of hierarchy: parent-child hierarchy and a level-based hierarchy. In a parent-child hierarchy, every child will be under a parent. You will have a tree-like structure. Okay. Here we are going to level-based hierarchy. It's going to be a level-based structure. We'll see how it is. So now I'm going to give stores. This is stores hierarchy. So your member ID or your store is the first hierarchy, and then I create the city as the second level, first level, and the city will be your second level, and state will be your third level. So the member will be under city, city will be under state. So these are the level type hierarchies. So now I click on OK. I created a hierarchy. Now that we are done with the creation of the dimension table, properties and all that, now I'm going to save it. So you can see if there is any hierarchy management here. There are few tabs which you can delete a dimension that we will see when we load the data. Now I just save the data, and then we will load the data. Now I click on data management. So this is the space where you can load your data. So there is the option to import your data. I click on import function and I choose file. Currently now we are loading from file, but in the project cases we will load it from a data source, whether it is a source system or a non SAP system. So now I have imported the data. I'm doing the data input of the Excel file. So once your data is imported, it will show in your modular dimension screen. So now you see I could see 5 columns: store number, store, city, state, and pin code. The city, state, and pin code are showing in green color, which means they are properly mapped. But I don't see the mapping of store number and store. So we have to ensure it is correctly mapped. So now it is asking the dimension ID. So which one will be the dimension ID? Store number will be the dimension ID, because dimension ID is the key of the table, and also it is the unique column, unique identifier for the dimension table. So store number will be your dimension ID, and the description will be your store name. Okay. Now that we have mapped everything, we see all it as green, and there are no issues now. And in the down there is also the level based hierarchy shown. Now I'll click on finish mapping. Okay, before that, here you see a transfer block. If there are any transformations you have done, that can be seen here. For example, if there is any uh, mistakes or data mismatch you see in your data, you can rectify it. So the rectifications will be seen in the transform block. There is an option to remove duplicated rows. Now I click on remove duplicated rows. It will delete if there are any duplicated rows. For example, if I see the same row BM1 Big Bazaar Mumbai Maharashtra and the same pin code as a different row, it's a duplicated row. So it will delete a duplicated row. Okay, and then you have transpose columns to rows. In some cases, we would try to make the column into a row into a column. Then we have a calculated column. This we will see how to create a calculated column in the model. In our dimension tables, there is no necessary to create any calculated columns. Okay, that we will see when creating a data model. So we will click on finish mapping. Yes, I have finished my mapping. So now your data will be imported to your dimension. So this dimension can be used by any other model you create. So when we create a new model, we will try to utilize this dimension table and load the data. So once your data is loaded, we will try to confirm whether our dimension table is having the imported data. For that, you will need to go again to the modeler, public dimension tables, and search for your dimension. The screen will take a little time. So once you check your dimension tables are ready, are good enough, then we will go to create our models. So this is the dimension table we created, and you can see all your data is populated in the dimension table. So now that we have shown how to create a dimension table, how to add description for it, how to create the properties for the dimension table. Now we will move on to see how to create data models. So in SAP Analytics Cloud, there are two styles of models: analytic model and a planning model. So analytic model is a read-only model, which means the models which you share it to other users are strictly read-only purpose. They cannot edit or do any upload or any data. It is just for analyzing your data. Just the reports and dashboards will show the data figures. A planning model is a read-write model where you can plan for your uh, accounts. What is the plan values? What is the forecast values? In the planning model, you have the option to write data. You will have to write data against a particular version and a date and enter the plan values or the forecast values. So this is the difference between your analytic model and a planning model. So whenever we are creating a model, you have a option to make the model as a planning model. In default, it is an analytic model, but if you want to make the model as a planning model, you have to choose the option to create the planning model. With similar to creating models, there is an option called data sets. So these data sets are of two types: embedded and public. Embedded datasets are datasets that are very unique to that story. They cannot be shared outside any story. Public data sets are standalone data sets and can be shared among stories. So we will see what is a data set first, and then we will see how to create a model. So now this is an option. So now this is the tab for data sets. When you click on data sets, you can prepare your raw data using a flexible table format and start your analysis. This is just raw data format, and you'll have it in only a table format. Why we have this option of data set is just to not load the same data into different stories every time. If you want to have the same data or a data set is just an set of data in an excel format or from a data source. It is having some columns in that data set. If it is common to many of the stories, then what we have to do, we will load the same data to different stories or models every time. We would be able to import it every time when we create the model. Instead of that, when we create a data set and then use this data set to all the models whichever it is required. So that is why this concept of data set is there. So it's very similar to creating a dimension table. You can create it from a CSV file or create it from a data source. I can show a sample data set with similar to the transaction data that we saw. So you will have this is just a data set which is being loaded. So if this data is need to be utilized among different models or different stories, they can pull this data set and retrieve the data. They need not load the data every time they wanted to upload this data. So that is how a data set is useful. So if it is created as a public data set, it can be used to any of the stories. If it is embedded data set is nothing that when you import a transaction data, when you import a file to your model, that is an embedded data set. But when you create it as a public, it can be utilized among different stories. So that is the difference. And you have some options like there are transpose your column to rows, or you can remove the duplicated rows. If you think there are duplicate rows, it will tell if there are any duplicated rows. And if you want to change, if you think there is any data error, you can modify it. So you can create a transformation to say change from Mumbai to caps, change case of that, change your uppercase. If you click the change your uppercase, change to uppercase, it changes to the uppercase. So it gives some transformation abilities here. And you can create some calculated measures also. You can create new measures and delete those measures. There are some options available for you to play with in the data set. And then when you see, this is expression new expression toolbar where you can just edit, say like replace some y with another letter, so something like that. What any transformation you can do it in the expression editor also. So these are the features available in the this one. Yeah. So the transform log will tell you whatever the transformations has been done. So there is a transformation done. They have concatenated the product type and product into a single column, right? For some reasons. So it will show the transform log. So this is a data set. Okay. This is just used to, it's in a table format, and this data just can be loaded into your stories, and then you can create your dashboards on it. It's just a set of data that you can cleanse or transform and keep it and then can be utilized. It is very simple. There is nothing much more what you can do with the data sets. Into the loading of data into dimension tables, we'll see how to access the SEC trial. SAP has already given trials for the currently used applications like Analytic Cloud, S4 HANA in Cloud, BTP. You all have the trial access of that. So for that, you can just type in SAC trial, and when you see, you can see that experience. You will get that link of the basic trial option. So there you can start your free trial. This free trial is of 30 days. You have to ensure that you click on SAP India. Currently, it might be on United States initially. So you have to click on SAP India and then click on try now. This free trial is of 30 periods, 30 days of time. So you can give your Gmail or any other private email ID, and when you click on next, you will be provisioned a link in your email to access the SAP trial, and then you agree and you'll be able to use the SAC screen.